And is the state prepared to call its next witness?
Yes, Judge, thank you. The state would call Dr. Kelly Cruse.
I'm assuming that's you. Yep. You want to come up to have a seat to my far left? Dr. Cruse, I'm going to go ahead and swear you in. If you please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be giving in these proceedings will be the truth?
I do.
Okay. And then for the record, can you please provide us with your first name and your last name and spell them?
My name is Kelly Cruse. It's Kellylykrusse.
All right, Mr. Ringle, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Cruse, how are you employed?
I am an associate state medical examiner at the Iowa office of the state medical examiner.
Can you talk about your educational background, please?
After I graduated from high school, I attended Tulane University. There I earned a Bachelor's of Science in Anthropology. I then attended St. George's University. I first earned a Master's of Public Health degree, and then I attended their medical school. I graduated from medical school in 2013. From 2013 to 2017, I attended and completed an anatomic and clinical pathology residency program located in New Jersey. And from 2017 to 2018, I completed a forensic pathology fellowship program at the Chief Medical Examiner's Office of Maryland.
Can you talk a little bit about your employment history as well?
I came to work in Iowa following my fellowship, so this here has been my only full-time job. In terms of additional work, I provide consultation autopsies for local hospitals in the Des Moines area.
How are you currently employed then?
I am currently full-time employed by the State Medical Examiner's Office.
What is forensic pathology?
Forensic pathology is a specialized area of medicine. It falls underneath pathology. Pathology is the study of disease and disease processes. In the most common setting, a pathologist is in the hospital. They look at organs, they look at blood, they look at blood work, chemistry to diagnose natural diseases. A forensic pathologist or forensic pathology goes a step further. We have knowledge of those natural disease processes, but then we also have knowledge of injury. And we specifically look at how disease processes and injuries can lead to death.
So you're employed as a medical examiner, then what does a medical examiner do?
A medical examiner is a physician, and that's in Iowa, we have a fairly unique system. So each county has their own medical examiner. They're all physicians, but most of them aren't forensic pathologists like me. Most of them will then use their medical knowledge and training to determine if an autopsy is necessary. If they think an autopsy is necessary, then they will send the deceased individual to the state medical examiner's office in Ankeny, and then myself and 5 other state medical examiners will perform an autopsy on them and determine why they died.
Can you explain for the jury what an autopsy is?
An autopsy is an examination of a deceased individual. The main purpose is to determine their cause of death, so the reason why they died. As part of that examination, we document injury, we document natural disease processes, and we will interpret ancillary testing like toxicology.
Do you collect evidence as well during the autopsy process?
We do. We have standard evidence that we collect for every individual. We will collect a blood stain card, so take blood and put it on a card for potential testing. We will take fingerprints. We also collect blood, vitreous fluid from the eye, and urine if it's available for toxicology testing. Any additional evidence collection would be done at the request of law enforcement.
What is toxicology?
Toxicology is the testing of a specimen, usually blood, for alcohol, drugs of abuse, prescribed medications.
You mentioned cause of death. What is the cause of death?
The cause of death is a process that ultimately leads to a person's passing. It can be a natural disease, it can be an injury, it can be a specific drug. There are a lot of options when it comes to cause of death.
What is manner of death?
Manner of death describes the circumstances surrounding a person's death. In contrast to cause of death, we only have 5 options for manner of death. We have natural, so death due purely to natural disease. We have accident, which is death due to unforeseen circumstances. A good example would be a car crash. We have suicide, death at the hands of another, or death at the hands of oneself. Homicide, death at the hands of another, and then undetermined, which is a manner that is chosen when we might not have enough information to choose one of the other manners, or we have 2 competing manners.
Approximately how many autopsies would you say you've conducted?
I've conducted over 2,000 autopsies.
Is there a standard procedure for conducting an autopsy?
We abide by procedures that are set forth by the National Association of Medical Examiners at our state medical examiner's office here in Iowa. We have our own set standard operating procedures that we follow closely for every autopsy, regardless of how a person died.
As a medical examiner, do you attempt to obtain a history prior to the autopsy?
Yes.
Why do you do that?
History is quite helpful with the autopsy process. We have that standard operating procedure, but there may be components of a history or circumstances surrounding someone's death that might lead me to order additional testing. Say if someone was in a car, I may order carbon monoxide testing, which I wouldn't do otherwise. It might encourage me to send certain organs to a specialist or order special toxicology testing.
In order to obtain that history, what type of information do you review?
Our office requires at least a small amount of information about the person who's coming to our office from that county medical examiner and the personnel there. They have county investigators as well. The amount of information varies, so it's really just case dependent, but we try and provide guidance and training to those county personnel so that what they give to us is helpful for the autopsy.
We talked briefly about evidence collection. What's the purpose of evidence collection during an autopsy?
Our standard evidence collection with the bloodstain card would be if we needed to test for DNA in the future. Fingerprints are taken potentially to confirm identity. Family may also request photographs of fingerprints for things like jewelry and tattoos. Other evidence collection includes fingernail clippings, which might be helpful if there's another person's DNA on those clippings. We'll collect head hair, and that can be matched to something at a scene. Clothing that might potentially have some evidentiary value as well. It just depends on the case.
Do you collect projectiles and things of that nature as well?
Yes.
Any other standard components of an autopsy?
All of our autopsies at the state medical examiner include both the external and internal examination, regardless of how a person died. So we look at everything on the outside of the body and the inside of the body to diagnose natural disease and injury. Depending on the type of case, we may have that additional evidence collection. Also, depending on the type of case, we may perform x-rays prior to the autopsy.
You complete a report in association with the autopsy that you complete?
Yes.
Did you perform an autopsy for Ryan Cooper?
Yes.
Do you remember when you performed that autopsy?
Yes, it was June 19th of 2021.
Do you recall how you received the body?
All bodies are transported, or at least we request that they're transported in a body bag. Counties have their own transportation system, either by funeral home or ambulance service. The body is brought to our office, it's placed in a cooler, and then removed from the cooler on day of autopsy.
And is that bag typically sealed?
Yes.
And how is that sealed?
It is sealed with a lock. So it is a plastic device that has a number on it. That number is documented at the scene when that bag is closed and the lock is placed in between the zipper pulls. And then that lock number is documented at autopsy to confirm that the bag has not been opened in between the body going from the scene to autopsy time.
And you received Ryan Cooper's body in a body bag, correct?
Yes.
And was it locked or sealed as you just described?
Yes.
Any reason to believe the bag had been opened or tampered with?
No.
And did you conduct your autopsy according to the protocol that you just outlined previously?
Yes.
Did you take photographs during the autopsy that you conducted?
Yes.
Would those assist you with your testimony here today?
Yes.
Your Honor, if I may approach with State's Exhibits number 286 through 293.
You may.
Yes, these are photographs taken during the autopsy of Ryan Cooper.
Fair and accurate representations of what you observed during that autopsy?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the State would move to admit States 286 through 293.
No
Any-
objection.
all
No
right.
objection.
All right, then State's Exhibits 286 through 293 are admitted.
State requests permission to publish.
All right.
Starting here with State's Exhibit 286, what do we see here?
This is a photograph that is taken of that body bag that Mr. Cooper's body was received in. The blue plastic material here is that lock I described with a unique number. The body bag itself also is tagged with the name of the person inside, and it says Ryan R. Cooper.
States 287, what do we see here?
This is a photograph of Mr. Cooper as he was received. This is before his body has been touched by our office, so it is his body exactly as it was in the body bag.
288, what do we see here?
This is Mr. Cooper's upper body after his clothing has been removed and he's been cleaned.
And that's part of the standard procedure of an autopsy?
Yes.
Why is that done?
The cleaning process?
Yes.
Many different things such as injuries can be obscured by blood. So the body is documented as received with that blood. It's photographed. And then once everything is appropriately documented, the blood is cleaned to see if there is any additional injury that we couldn't see underneath the blood.
Once you'd completed that cleaning process, anything of note?
After Mr. Cooper's body had been cleaned, he had a number of different injuries. The major injuries and the ones that caused his death were on his face. There's a gunshot wound here to the left cheek that can be seen in this photograph.
289, this is a close-up of Mr. Cooper's face, correct?
Yes.
What are we seeing in this photograph of relevance to you?
This is what we call an identification photograph. We take a photograph of everyone's face at autopsy. Part of my job is confirming identity of the deceased individual, so this photo would be compared to something like his driver's license photo. Of note in this photograph is one of 2 gunshot wounds on the left cheek, and around that gunshot wound are pinpoint red dots or abrasions, which is called stippling.
What is stippling?
Stippling is abrasions or little scratches in the skin that occur when unburnt gunpowder particles make contact with that skin. When a bullet is fired, or when a gun is fired, the bullet leaves the gun and it's accompanied by gunpowder. That gunpowder can be completely burned in the form of soot, or it can be unburned. And when that unburned gunpowder particle makes contact with the skin, it does so with such force that it causes a little scratch or abrasion in the skin, which is that stippling that we see here.
Does the presence of stippling tell you, as a medical examiner, anything about the location of the barrel of the gun in relation to Mr. Cooper's face?
Yes. The presence of soot and or stippling to me says that the gun was relatively close to the skin. Soot can't travel very far, really a matter of a few inches. The unburnt gunpowder particles can travel a bit farther, maybe a few feet. So the presence of that stippling indicates that the gun was likely within a few feet of the body.
State's Exhibit number 290, what are we seeing here?
This is the left side of Mr. Cooper's face. Here, near the top of the photograph, is that one gunshot wound that we were able to appreciate with the picture of his entire face. And below it in the photograph is that second gunshot wound. He had a total of 2 gunshot wounds to the left cheek, one closer to his nose and one closer to his ear.
State's Exhibit number 291, what are we seeing here?
This is a photograph of the base of Mr. Cooper's skull. In order to examine the brain, an incision is made over the top of the head, and the scalp is moved forward and backward in relation to that incision. The top of the skull is removed and the brain itself is removed. And here we're looking at the base of the skull where that brain would usually sit. Traversing the skull are these metallic rods, and these show the wound paths of each of those gunshot wounds. So each gunshot wound was associated with injury to the skull and the brain, and bullets were recovered.
You talked about entrance wounds. Did you observe any exit wounds?
There were no exit wounds. Bullets were recovered from each gunshot wound.
It should be fairly clear we've had some testimony about what an entrance wound is, but what is an exit wound and what would you expect to see? Were you observing exit wounds?
The exit wound would typically be at the end of that wound path. For me, when I'm looking at a body and there are gunshot wounds, there are very clear differences, at least usually, between entrance wounds and exit wounds. Entrance wounds have a rounded appearance. It's a punched out defect. That bullet has a lot of energy and it pushes through the skin, creating a hole. So if I tried to, I couldn't push the edges of that wound together. There's missing tissue there. An exit wound has more of a slit-like appearance. The bullet loses a lot of energy along the wound path and essentially just pushes out through the skin, wherever that exit wound may be. So as you saw with the picture with the skull, I traced the wound paths. At the end of the wound path, there weren't any slit-like defects or any injuries that looked like exit wounds. And I did recover fragmented bullets, but 2 of them.
Showing you State's Exhibit 292, what do we see here?
These are 2 of the larger bullet fragments that were recovered from the brain. What we could also see with those rods moving through the skull is that the wound paths intersected. So they essentially terminated roughly in the same area of the brain. And so determining which of these 2 bullets was associated with the entrance wound closer to the nose or the ear was not something I could do.
And you said that the 2 shots terminated in the same area. Is that illustrated here in 291?
Yes, these rods, as they move through the brain, they start to intersect in this area, and that's where those bullet fragments were recovered.
These are the bullet fragments that were recovered. Do you know what you did then once you'd recovered those bullet fragments?
Once those bullet fragments are recovered, they're photographed, as we see here. They're then handled by an investigator within my office. They're packaged and sealed for chain of custody purposes, and they may pass that bullet off to a ballistics laboratory, off to law enforcement. I'm not involved in the process after that.
And these are the largest bullet fragments that you recovered in this case, correct?
Yes.
And when you recovered them, were they in this deformed state?
Yes.
Is that, based on both your training and your experience, typical for bullets to be deformed?
It depends on what the bullet hits in the body. They often deform when they hit bone.
State's Exhibit number 293, what are we seeing here?
These are additional bullet fragments. These were from the skull on the opposite side of the entrance wounds. The other bullet fragments were recovered from more inside the brain, so I packaged these separately.
And so State's Exhibit number 292, which I'm displaying here, which you described as bullet fragments, and State's Exhibit number 293, some smaller fragments. Is that the totality of projectiles or bullet fragments that you recovered from Mr. Cooper during the autopsy?
Yes.
And again, these were packaged and sealed and passed on to investigators, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Judge. Just let me know if it's going to be helpful as we go through these remaining questions to reference any of those exhibits. In your report, I believe you referred to the gunshot wounds as gunshot wound A and gunshot wound B. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there a particular reason that you chose that nomenclature?
I will label my gunshot wounds with letters of the alphabet, and for me, it's for organizational purposes. I tend to go from the head to the toe, right to left, so essentially arbitrary, but to me, it helps organize my report.
There's not a timing component to the way that you've listed them. It's not first and second. Can you explain why that is?
Correct. So I don't have a way with my autopsy of determining which gunshot wound was inflicted first or second.
Another question that comes up with some frequency with medical examiners is the ability to estimate or make a statement regarding the time of death. Is that something that you're able to do when conducting an autopsy?
No.
Can you explain?
Time of death is quite difficult, and it's often portrayed as being something that's quite easy and can be done with great precision in movies and television. We don't have a lot to look at the autopsy that help us determine time of death. There are a number of different changes that happen in your body after you die, but as I indicated, the body is transported from the scene to our office, placed in a cooler, and I often perform the autopsy a day or two later. What I can say with these gunshot wounds is that Mr. Cooper was alive at the time he sustained them. I just don't know when he sustained them.
And so we'll go through gunshot wound A and B separately, but if I understand your testimony, you're saying he was alive at the time that each of these wounds was inflicted.
Yes.
Starting with gunshot wound A, you've listed that as left cheek medial, correct?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Medial meaning the one closer to the nose.
We've already seen that you were able to determine a path that bullet traveled.
Yes.
Were you able to tell, or are you able to determine the specific position of the body at the time of the shot?
I can't tell the specific position of the body. When I determine the trajectory of a bullet or the direction of a wound path, it's only within that person's body.
And so how is that described then when you describe that path of travel?
The path of travel for gunshot wound A as well as gunshot wound B was from Mr. Cooper's left to his right, his front to his back, and upward.
When you say upward, what does that mean in relation to what?
Upward in relation going from his chin up to the top of his head.
And that was illustrated on the state's exhibit that showed the metal rods. That was the path of travel that you're describing, correct?
Yes.
With regard to gunshot wound A, was that shot independently fatal?
Yes, that shot was independently fatal.
And when you say independently fatal, what do you mean, just to make that clear?
Gunshot wound A injured a number of vital structures. It injured his skull and it injured his brain.
And that alone would have been sufficient for him to die?
Yes.
Without gunshot wound B, he would have died from that injury?
Most likely, yes.
Are you able to determine how long it would take him to die from that injury?
I can't say with certainty. Injuries to the brain are more quickly fatal than an injury to a different part of the body.
Would you describe it as rapidly fatal?
Rapidly fatal injuries, we try and use when there's injury to, say, the brain stem, but fairly quickly fatal.
And you stated he was alive at the time that this shot was fired or the wounds occurred. How do you know that?
When a person is alive at the time they sustain an injury, there's bleeding associated with that injury, which to me says that his heart was beating at the time. Let's say the bullet moved through his body, which then pushes blood out from injured blood vessels and into surrounding tissue.
What is the perimortem phase? What does that mean?
You can break timing up into different categories. There's the antemortem phase, so before a person died. The perimortem phase is really the time in which the person is dying, and then the postmortem phase after the person dies, say when I do the autopsy.
So it's gunshot wound A. You stated it was independently fatal and suffered while he was still alive, and also indicated that it would be quickly fatal. About gunshot wound B, I think you've described that as left cheek lateral. What does that mean?
Closer to the ear, still on the left cheek, and gunshot wound B was also in itself fatal.
So that's an independently fatal wound. Same question. I think you made this clear. He was alive at the time of that shot as well.
Yes.
Independently fatal, how would you describe? Because, well, first of all, what wounds did he suffer from gunshot wound B?
Gunshot wound B, he also had injury to the skull. The bullet then entered into the brain. It injured both sides of the larger part of the brain, the cerebrum, and then it also injured part of the brain stem, which serves as a way of your brain telling your body to do normal vital functions, and also a connection from the brain to your spinal cord.
Same question. Would you say this was also quickly fatal due to the nature of the wound?
Yes.
And then I'm assuming that you're observing the same thing and making the statement that he was alive at the time that this wound occurred. There was bleeding associated with the wound.
Yes.
With regard to the stippling that you observed, were you able to observe stippling from both gunshot wound A and, associated with gunshot wound A and gunshot wound B?
Yes.
What did you observe?
In terms of the stippling, I measured the distance from the abrasions from the edges of the wound. The gunpowder will fan out and create a rough circle, so there were two rough interlapping circles around both gunshot wounds.
Indicating to you, based on your prior testimony, that both shots were fired at close range.
Yes.
Any additional injuries that you observed that contributed to death?
No.
You performed a toxicological analysis, correct?
Yes.
Any relevance relevant information found in that analysis?
Toxicology was performed looking for alcohol and drugs of abuse, and it was negative.
Negative meaning none were located.
Correct.
Any other contributing factors to death besides the gunshot wounds?
No.
Is your work peer reviewed?
Yes.
What's that mean?
We have a process where we, meaning the medical examiners at the state medical examiner's office, have our autopsy reports read by others. If a case is classified as a homicide, then we routinely have one other pathologist read that report. They fill out some paper saying that they agree with our findings. We also have some random review processes where we review natural cases, accidents as well, just to make sure we're all practicing within the standards that we're expected to.
And that occurred here?
Yes.
Were you able to make a determination regarding the cause of death?
Yes.
What was that?
Gunshot wounds of head.
Were you able to make a determination regarding manner of death?
Yes.
And what was that?
Homicide.
Are these your opinions to a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Yes.
No further questions, Judge.
Mr. Hawbaker?
None, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You may step down. You're excused. And Mr. Ringle, before we get to any more witnesses, I want to take up, I think, one exhibit that the state offered that we kind of reserved. That was State's Exhibit 306, which I understand is a portion of the presentation that Detective Lord gave when she testified last week. And my understanding is that there's no objection to Exhibit 306 at this point. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, then State's Exhibit 306 is now admitted. And with that, Mr. Ringle, does the state have any additional witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor, the state rests at this time.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, what that means, the state is rested. That means the state's not going to be presenting any more evidence in this case as part of their case in chief. And so, third day in a row, we're going to be done a little bit early today. We again move very quickly. What I can tell you is I expect that we will be able to get this case submitted to you by the end of this week. So, whether it goes into next week or not, that's going to be up to you folks, probably depending on what time we get the case submitted to you. But there are some things that we need to do and need to work on, and we will do that today, and then we'll pick back up tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So I ask that you be back here ready to go at 9, and remind you that admonition I gave you previously. Again, hit the high points again. Keep an open mind. We're not done with the case yet. Don't talk to anybody about the case. Don't let anybody talk to you about the case. Don't do any type of investigation or research. Avoid any media accounts, traditional media, and any social media accounts or commentary about the case as well. So with that, I wish all of you a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.